The Balaclava Story by George Layton. We need to know first of all what a balaclava is. I wonder if you know what a balaclava is. It's one of those sort of very often knitted piece of headwear that people will wear in the winter. They pull them on over the top of their head. It might just sort of leave their eyes and their nose and their mouth showing. It'll keep your head warm, keep your ears warm, certainly during winter. And the boy in this story, George, desperately wants a balaclava because all his friends are wearing them. Tony and Barry both had one. I reckon half the kids in our class had one, but I didn't. My mum wouldn't even listen to me. You're not having a balaclava. What do you want a balaclava for in the middle of summer? I must have told her about 10 times why I wanted a balaclava. I want one so I can join the Balaclava boys. Go and wash your hands for tea and don't be so silly. She turned away from me to lay the table, so I put the curse of the middle finger on her. This was pointing both your middle fingers at someone when they weren't looking. Tony had started it when Miss Taylor gave him 100 lines for flicking paper pellets at Jennifer Greenwood. He had to write out 100 times, I must not fire missiles because it is dangerous and liable to cause damage to someone's eye. Tony tried to tell Miss Taylor that he hadn't fired a missile, he'd just flicked a paper pellet. But she threw a piece of chalk at him and told him to shut up. Well, don't just stand there. Wash your hands. Huh? Don't say, Say pardon. What? Oh, just hurry up and make sure the dirt comes off in the water and not on my clean towel. Do you hear? Oh, my mum. She didn't half go on sometimes. I don't know what you get up to at school. How do you get so dirty? I knew exactly the kind of balaclava I wanted. One just like Tony's, a sort of yellowy brown. His dad had given it to him because of his earache. Mind you, he didn't like wearing it at first. At school, he'd given it to Barry to wear and got it back before home time. But all the other lads started asking if they could have one to wear. So Tony took it back and said from then on, nobody but him could wear it, not even Barry. Barry told him he wasn't bothered because he was going to get a balaclava of his own. And so did some of the other lads. And that's how it started. The Balaclava boys. It wasn't a gang really. I mean, they didn't have meetings or anything like that. They just went around together wearing their balaclavas. And if you didn't have one, you couldn't go around with them. Tony and Barry, well, they were my best friends. But because I didn't have a balaclava, they wouldn't let me go around with them. I tried. Oh, go on, Barry. Let us walk round with you. No, you can't. You're not a balaclava boy. Oh, go on. No, please. I don't know why I wanted to walk round with them anyway. All they did was wander up and down the playground dressed in their rotten balaclavas. It was daft. Go on, Barry, be a sport. I've told you, you are not a balaclava boy. You've got to have a balaclava. If you get one, you can join. But I can't, Barry. My mum won't let me have one. Well, hard luck then. Oh, you are rotten. Then he went off with the others. I wasn't half fed up. All my friends were in the Balaclava boys, all the lads in my class except me. It wasn't fair. The bell went for the next lesson. Oh, heck. Handicraft with Misery Guts Garnet. And then it was home time. All the Balaclava boys were going in and I followed them. Hey, Tony, do you want to go down to the woods after school? No, I'm going with the Balaclava boys. Oh, blooming Balaclava boys. Why wouldn't my mum buy me a balaclava? Didn't she realise that I was losing all my friends and just because she wouldn't buy me one? Hey, Tony, we can go goose-gogging, you know, down by those great gooseberry bushes at the end of the woods. I've told you I can't. Yes, I know, but I thought you might want to go goose-gogging. Well, I would like to go goose-gogging, but I can't go. I wondered if Barry was going as well. Is Barry going round with the Balaclava boys and all? Of course he is. Oh, blooming balaclavas. I wish they'd never been invented. Why won't your mum get you one? Oh, I don't know. She says it's daft wearing a balaclava in the middle of summer. She won't let me have one. I found mine at home up in our attic. Tony unwrapped some chewing gum and asked if I wanted a piece. No thanks. I've only had to wrap it up in my handkerchief once we got into class. You couldn't get away with anything with Mr. Garnett. Hey, maybe you could find one in your attic. For a minute I wasn't sure what he was talking about. Find what? A balaclava. No, we haven't even got an attic. I didn't half find handicraft class boring, all that mucking about with compasses and rulers, or else it was weaving, and you got all tangled up with balls of wool. I was just no good at handicraft, and Mr. Garnett agreed with me. Today was worse than ever. We were painting pictures. We had to call it My Favourite Story. Tony was painting Noddy in Toyland. I told him he'd get into trouble. Garnett'll do for you. Well, why? It's my favourite story. Yes, but I don't think he'll believe you. Tony looked ever so hurt. But honest, it is my favourite story. Anyway, what are you doing? He leaned over to have a look at my favourite story. Have you read it, Tony? I don't know. What is it? Robinson Crusoe. What do you think it is? He just looked at my painting. Oh, all right. I see it now. Oh, yes, I get it now. I couldn't make out what it was for a minute. Oh, that's Man Friday, is it, behind him? Get your finger off. It's still wet. And that isn't Man Friday. It's a coconut tree. Oh, look, you've smudged it now. We were using some stuff called poster paint, and I got covered in it. I was getting it everywhere. So I asked Mr. Garnett if I could go and wash my hands. He gets annoyed when you ask to be excused, but he could see I got it all over my hands, so he said I could go, but told me to be quick about it. The wash basins were in the boys' cloakroom, just outside the main hall. I got most of the paint off, and as I was drying my hands, that's when it happened. I don't know what came over me. As soon as I saw that balaclava lying there on the floor, I decided I was going to pinch it. I couldn't help it. I just knew that this was my only chance. I've never pinched anything before. I don't think I have. But I didn't think of this as, well, I don't even like saying it, but stealing. I just did it. I picked it up. I went to my coat and I put it in the pocket. At least I tried to put it in the pocket, but it bulged out, so I pushed it down the inside of the sleeve. My head was throbbing, and even though I'd just dried my hands, they were all wet from sweating. If only I'd thought of it first. But it all happened so quickly. I went back to the classroom, and as I was going, I began to realise what I'd done. I'd stolen someone's balaclava. I didn't even know who it was. But as I stood in the doorway, I couldn't believe I'd done it. If only I could go back. In fact, I thought I would, but Mr. Garnett told me to hurry up and sit down. As I was going back to my desk, I felt as if all the lads knew what I'd done. How could they? Maybe someone had seen me. No. Yes, how could they? They could. No, of course they couldn't. Of course not. What if they did, though? Oh, heck. I thought home time would never come. But when the bell did ring, I got out as quick as I could. I was going to put that balaclava back before anybody noticed. But as I got to the cloakroom, I heard Norbert Lighttowler shout out that someone had pinched his balaclava. Nobody took much notice, thank goodness, and I heard Tony say to him that he most likely lost it. Norbert said he hadn't, but he went off to make sure it wasn't in the classroom. I tried to be all casual. I took my coat, but I didn't dare put it on in case the balaclava popped out of the sleeve. I said ta-ra to Tony. See you, Tony. Bye. Yeah, ta-ra. Oh, it was good to get out in the open air. I couldn't wait to get home and get rid of that blooming balaclava. Why had I gone and done a stupid thing like that? Norbert Lighttowler was sure to report it to the headmaster, and there'd be an announcement made in morning assembly, and the culprit would be asked to own up. I was running home as fast as I could. I wanted to stop and take out the balaclava and chuck it away, but I didn't dare. The faster I ran, the faster my head was filled with thoughts. I couldn't give it back to Norbert. Say I'd made a mistake. No, he'd never believe me. None of the lads would believe me. Everybody knew how much I wanted a balaclava. I'd have to get rid of the blooming thing as fast as I could. My mum wasn't back from work when I got home, thank goodness. So as soon as I managed to shut the front door, I put my hand down the sleeve of my coat for the balaclava. There was nothing there. That was funny. I was sure I put it down that sleeve. I tried down the other sleeve. There was still nothing there. Maybe I got the wrong coat. No, it was my coat all right. Oh, blimey. I must have lost it while I was running home. I was kind of glad in a way. I was going to have to get rid of it now it was gone. I only hoped nobody had seen me drop it. But, oh, how glad was I to get rid of it. Mind you, I was dreading going to school the next morning. Norbert'll probably have reported it by now. Well, I wasn't going to own up. I didn't mind the cane. It wasn't that, but if you owned up, you had to go up on stage in front of the whole school. Well, I was going to forget about that, and nobody would ever know that I'd pinched that blooming lousy balaclava anyway. I started to do my homework. I couldn't really concentrate. I kept thinking about assembly the next morning. What if I went all red and everybody else noticed? They'd know then that I'd pinched it. I tried to think about other things, nice things. I thought about bed. I just wanted to go to sleep, to go to bed and sleep. Then I thought about my mum. What would she say if she knew that I'd been stealing? I still couldn't forget about the assembly the next day. I went into the kitchen and peeled some potatoes for my mum. She was ever so pleased when she came home from work and said I must have known that she'd got me a present. Oh, thanks. What have you got me? She gave me a paper bag, and when I opened it, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a blooming balaclava. There you are. Now you won't be left out, and you can stop making my life a misery. Thanks, Mum. If only my mum knew she was making my life a misery. The balaclava she bought me was just like the one that I'd pinched. I felt sick. I didn't want it. I couldn't wear it now. If I did, everyone would say that it was Norbert Lightower's. Even if they didn't, I just couldn't wear it. I wouldn't feel like it was mine. I had to get rid of it. I went outside and I put it down the lavatory. I had to pull the chain 3 times before it went away. It's a good job we've got an outside loo, or else my mum would have wondered what was wrong with me. I could hardly eat my tea. What's wrong with you? Aren't you hungry? No, not much. What have you been eating? Have you been eating lots of sweets? You have, haven't you? No, I just don't feel hungry. Don't you feel well? I'm all right. I wasn't. I felt terrible. I told my mum I was going to go upstairs and work on my model aeroplane. Well, it's my bingo night tonight, so make sure you get yourself a glass of cocoa before you go to bed. I went upstairs to bed, and after a while I fell asleep. The last thing I remember was a big balaclava with a smiling face. Oh, and it was the headmaster's face. I was scared stiff when I went to school the next morning. In assembly it seemed different. All the boys seemed to be looking at me. Norbert Lightower pushed past and he didn't say anything. When prayers had finished, I just stood up, waiting for the headmaster to ask for the culprit to own up. But he wasn't talking about the school, but he was talking about the school fete. And then he said something very important. Something he had to announce. I could feel myself now going very red. My ears were burning. Like anything, I was going hot and cold both at the same time. The headmaster spoke. I am very pleased to announce that the school football team has won the Interleague Cup. And then that was the end of assembly. Except we were told to go and play in the schoolyard until we were called in, because there was a teachers' meeting. I couldn't understand why I hadn't been found out yet. But I still didn't feel any better. I'd probably be called maybe to the headmaster's room later on that day. I went out into the yard, and everyone was happy because we were having extra playtime. I could see all the Balaclava boys going round together. Then I saw Norbert Lightower was one of them. I couldn't be sure it was Norbert because he had a balaclava on, so I had to go really close to him. Yeah, it was Norbert. He must have bought a new balaclava, I thought. Have you bought a new one then, Norbert? You what? You got a new balaclava, have you? What are you talking about? Your balaclava. You've got a new balaclava, haven't you? No, I never lost it at all. Some fool shoved it down the sleeve of my raincoat. Oh.